Change your heart. Look around you. Change your heart. It will astound you. And I need your loving like the sunshine. And everybody's gotta learn sometime. Everybody's gotta learn sometime. Everybody's gotta learn sometime. Change your heart. Look around you.
One of the remarkable things about Matt is, in Hebrew, his name means gift of life, and certainly both he and his brother Dennis and Matt were gifts, adopted gifts for us. And to all the parents that ever knew anything about children, they probably know that every child is a gift from God, and Matt was certainly that to us.
The story is that Sean and I were waiting to adopt a second child, and we had picked out names we kind of thought it would be a boy because we had a girl already, and we knew that if we were going to have a boy, we would name him Matthew after Sean's dad. But we didn't know. We were in an adoption group, and everybody else in our group had been getting children, so we called Catholic Charities and said, well, are you thinking about us? Is something coming up? And actually they said, well, as a matter of fact, we're talking right now about both of you, because there's twin boys that we thought maybe you would consider. And my husband said, well, what's their names? And they said, well, they're 13 months old, and one of them's name is Matthew, and the other one's name is Dennis. And since we planned on calling our child Matthew, and my husband's grandfather's name was Dennis.
So we picked out that name just to make sure that we had a name for both, and when we were gifted with a child for adoption, we did have a name handy. They already had the names before we even adopted them, and we had no way of knowing this. So the first memory I have of Matthew is I didn't see Matthew. I heard his popping. There's this little popcorn machine push, like a something with a long hand and a bubble popper. And I heard Matt for about 30 seconds before he showed up on the scene, and his brother had a squeaky dog that every time you pulled it went squeak, 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 squeak. And that was Dennis's doll. But first thing I saw coming around the corner was not Matt, but I saw this toy with the balls popping up. It was like, I hate to say, a little car engine. And I said to myself, it's my little boy.
Is it snowing out, guys? Lots of snow out there, about 4 inches. Maurice, go! Hurry up, Matthew, you're going the wrong way. Let's come on. I need to have a toy here.
Matthew, what's your opinions about school? That's right.
Matt entered my life when I was a freshman in high school. I met him at the steps in Naperville North that are in the hallway by the photography room. It's basically where I met the majority of the people that I still communicate with. And so I've known him since I was about 14, and we got really, really close when I was 20 going on 21.
Matt entered my life when I was about 12 years old in downtown Naperville, behind BK. Yeah, pretty much.
I honestly don't remember how he entered. I can imagine you introduced me to him, but I do remember meeting you two as a unit. I remember you introducing me to him. I don't remember specifically where it was, though.
Matt entered my life through everyone downtown Naperville, primarily Mr. Krumlauf here. We didn't really hang out that much like individually alone. It was more just in groups. Then we started hanging out more in smaller groups, and then we got to the one-on-one.
I met Matt downtown, just like everyone meets everyone downtown Naperville. He was sort of the loner type, and then, God, I don't even know. He had to have walked up to me and just started talking. You know, that was Matt, though. He's one of those, open but sort of reserved people. He's really a watcher.
Matt entered my life in grade school. We went to St. Peter and Paul together, and my memory's kind of shot, so the first time I kind of acknowledged him was, I guess, maybe around 3rd grade. I think we had Mrs. Woods together. That doesn't really matter. I mean, we entered my life at the hell that we call Peter and Paul. We all hated that place. So bad.
I think that, like, in high school, I noticed that, I could see who I would come to know as Matt later in life. Like, I saw that part of him when I was younger, but it seemed like he was very conflicted when I first met him. Like, he was going in and out through like some dark stages. I won't really get into specific details, but he was dealing with some things, and I definitely saw maturity, very much so. Independency grew as he got older, whereas like when he was younger, he was more of like how we all were. We were all just like blowing shit up and like just being little angsty suburban teenagers. Whereas when he got into his late teens, early 20s, or 20, that he really did start becoming like a man and really put others before himself.
He went from being the, you know, shy type person, you know, in the back, always, you know, watching everyone, you know, do what they do, and then he would, you know, randomly jumping in every second, being a part of everyone's life, no matter how you were, who you were, what you stood for, what you believed in. He was there for you 100%. And, you know, he really just blossomed, you know, and on his own. He did it by himself. He made, you know, and anything he had a problem with, he fixed on his own, you know, but he was always there for everyone else, you know, no matter what. Yeah. And I think that was like his biggest development, is, you know, him coming out of his shell and, you know, letting everybody see who he was, no matter what anyone thought.
And he became more responsible. He was working. He started working when he was 15 and a half at Jewel, and then he went to McDonald's and he worked there for a couple of years. And then he worked for Honda, and then finally he was working at Jimmy John's, and he kept taking on more responsibility, and we were just watching him grow and becoming a young man. It was really great to see and watch him do that.
He actually loved people. He loved them without regard to who they are or what they stood for. And he had a whole range of friends. I can't imagine how many friends he had.
When I knew him, we were good friends for probably about a year and a half, and he was always an excellent listener. He always had something positive to say. He always had something that would cheer you up, and it was always something so simple, like, it'll be okay, but when he said it, he meant it. And toward the end, he got more withdrawn. I don't know why, but I don't know if it was school problems or girl problems or whatever, but I did notice he wasn't quite as happy all the time.
You could see that there was like a couple sides to him, that there was things that he was like repressing, like, because sometimes he'd be like super happy and super energetic and running around, and there's other times where you could see stuff was bothering him.
When we met back up in 2011, we started hanging out almost every day, and that's not an over-exaggeration. From September 2011, or late August 2011, to the last weekend that he was here before he passed, I was literally with him every day, if not every other day.
To Apple computing, but you must remember this: if you feel a kiss, you have to let go. Your mind goes yo. Imitate yourself is a danger to your health. But there's this thing that happens in the spring. You have to let go. Your mind goes yo.
Yep. Okay, okay. Yep. Then cars happened, and then cars happened, and we were fixing each other's cars, putting on performance parts. He was one hell of a kid, that's for sure. At his house, me and Matt were putting on, a performance part on his car, an exhaust header. We had just gotten done putting it on and running it. And my dumb A went and grabbed the entire manifold to shake it to see if it was still tight. And I burned the living crap out of my hand so bad. And 2 days later, we were working on Cassie's car, which is another one of Matt's really close friends. And we had a giant pry bar on a strut, and Matt goes and pulls the pry bar out and crushes my hand in between it. And I gotta say, the next most memorable moment was when he got that Toyota. It was a difference in him. How long did he, try as hard as he could to get a car that he could, modify and make it right, and he did. That was probably the proudest moment of his life, was getting that Toyota. He came over. I didn't even see it yet. I didn't hear about it or anything, and he just came over with it. And second he came over with it, we had it up on the jack stands, and we were wrenching and toying around with it. We painted his rims orange my birthday last year. That was awesome. He had a choice. We had went to the store, and it was either going to be green or orange. And with the blue car, me and him both decided that the orange would be the best with the blue.
It was around 11:30 midnight, and it was a torrential downpour. Like, I could hear the rain from down here in the basement. And my phone went off, and this was around pretty close to midnight, so the morning of the 4th. And it was my Castillo.
I was driving eastbound on Deal Road when I saw a huge line of police cars, and wasn't really sure what was going on. I had no idea. I just kept on driving. Saw a tarp over a car and had no second thought about it. And just the one weird part was that it was a little farther in from the road, so I wasn't sure what was going on. But they had the entire westbound lane blocked off. So we just kept on driving. And then about an hour later, I came back to drop off the friend that we had just picked up. And this time I was going eastbound because we figured, it's been an hour, it's probably all cleaned up, and the cops probably won't be there blocking the road anymore. So it turns out, at this point, it's pouring rain. It is completely downfall. And I'm driving my girlfriend at the time's car because of the rain. But as I come around the corner, see that the entire eastbound lanes are still completely blocked off. So we went through the parking lots to try to get a way around and see if there was any parking lots that connected that we could cut around without having to go all the way back to Ogden. And that's when I came around the corner, I ended up coming right to where the accident was. At the time, the car was still under a tarp, but now there was a big white corner van sitting next to the car, and the only thing I saw was zip up of the bag and putting it back into the trunk, the back of the trunk of the van, and at that point, we're like, oh, we need to leave, we need to get out of here. Still didn't recognize Matt's car because it was under a tarp, like I said. So we left and we went back around where we came, and the corner van followed us, of course, for 6 blocks before I finally just had a weird feeling and just had to get away. So I turned and let them pass, went all the way around, dropped off the friend, and then me and my girlfriend at the time drove around for a little bit, and about right before midnight, I'd say, I was coming back, this time eastbound again on Deal Road, and it was weird. It was the weirdest thing on the planet that this accident had been sitting there for 2 hours and still hadn't been cleaned up. And I was so confused because there's just this huge line of cops cars still sitting there. At this point, some people have left, but they're still taking photos and doing that kind of stuff. I slammed on the brakes in the car because the first thing I saw and the only thing I saw was bright orange rims. And there was no doubt in my mind. I mean, I knew exactly what happened. Not really exactly what happened, but I knew what the inevitable outcome was going to be. So the first thing we did is, after starting the car up again from sliding in the pouring rain still, is I called up Mike Krumlauf here, and my girlfriend at the time worked with Matt's twin brother Dennis, and so she called him, and we're both on the phone trying to see where Mike is, because I need to talk to him. Obviously, I need to tell him what's going on.
The first call I ignored because I was just, pissed. It was just one of those things I'm just going to bed. Why are my friends calling? I'll deal with it in the morning. Then he called again, and it's not like of Mike to call twice. It's usually if you give him the ignore, if you miss the phone call, he won't call you back. So I answered the call and I said, well, what's going on? And he said, have you heard anything about what's happened tonight? And that's all he said. And I said, no. And he said, I'll be at your house in 5 minutes. And I said, what's going on? He's like, I'll talk to you when I get there. I'll be there in 5 minutes. So I get dressed. I go and am standing outside of the garage, and it's still raining really, really hard. And Castillo shows up with his girlfriend at the time. They don't even make it to my driveway. They literally screech on their brakes right on the road. And Mike runs up to me and just grabs me and gives me a hug. And didn't say anything, and I said, well, what's going on? And his eyes were really watery, and he just told me, Matt's dead, and I'm sorry. And my initial reaction was, it was almost like my mind didn't hear what he just said, but it did. And I asked him again, I said, what did you say? And he said, Matt's dead. And all I remember doing is pointing my finger at him, just saying no a bunch of times. And I asked him what happened. He said he didn't know that he drove past. He saw them put Matt in the corner van, but didn't know at the time. And then when he drove back, he noticed the orange rims and came straight to my house. And I remember telling Mike to stay in the garage. I needed to go in and tell my boyfriend at the time and tell my mom. And I remember I shot downstairs in the basement here so fast, and the guy that I was seeing was in my room here. And I remember literally slamming myself into the door because I was running so fast, and I just was shaking, screaming at him, saying, Matt's dead, Matt's dead. And his eyes got really wide. And he said, are you sure? Is it confirmed, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I don't know, Castillo's saying this, and I have to go run up. And then I went upstairs, and I banged on my mom's door, and you know, this was early in the morning, and my mom thought maybe I needed, like, I ran out of sleep aids or some stupid shit, and she's like, "What do you want?" And I told her, I just said, "Matt's dead," and she shot out of bed and brought Castillo in and his girlfriend at the time, and my boyfriend came up, and I just started making phone calls. And that whole situation, like, it was kind of like I was in a twilight zone. I think that's the best way, where I just automatically went into this haze, and the haze didn't really leave until after about 2 weeks after the funeral. That I was just kind of like a mindless zombie walking around, because nothing really made sense.
We had no idea what to expect, and I know there's just something about young people. When young people are mourning, and there was ages, different people of different age groups, don't get me wrong, but when I walked up and about 10 minutes into it, I saw 5 big bruisers, 5 guys that Matt knew. I don't know who they were. They were all lined up, and they weren't moving at all. They were just staring down at the candles, and I remember how powerful it is to see strong young men there honoring my son. And then I saw all these people, and I thought there were only 7 or 8 people, and then it just seemed like a flashback. Then there were almost 100. I don't know how it happened. It's like when you're grieving, you lose sense of time. There are people coming up to me and my wife and my family, and you know, praising us and thanking us and loving us and all the things that have to go in a morning. And all of a sudden, I was very aware that Matt touched so many people's lives, and I had no idea who my son was. My son was so busy being out there, I'd wait up until 1:30 in the morning for him to come home, and I'd ask him, "Well, what went on today?" And like a typical teenager, he'd say, "Nothing." And yet he might have been out till 1 o'clock in the morning consoling somebody or caring for somebody or reaching out to people. Even if he couldn't help, he was there for people.
A lot of people that didn't know me noticed who I was. They saw me in the photos that were going up on the light post, and I remember collapsing down on my knees, starting to cry, and a bunch of people that I had never even met before started hugging me. And it was just really surreal. It was the kind of attention that you never want to get. And once everybody got there, Mr. McMahon said a few things, and then he asked me to talk. And I'm not the greatest public speaker. I'm actually, I've never been good at public speaking, and it was almost like my fear of public speaking went away. And as choked up as I was, I thanked everyone for coming, and, said my good things. The wake, the things that I remember with the wake is how many people were there. That I think it was just under 900 people showed up. And when Matt was alive, when we would have our heart-to-heart talks in his car, he would always mention how he felt that he wasn't appreciated enough and that he felt invisible, and that, if he were to have disappeared the next day, no one would really care. And it was the exact opposite of that. And that killed me.
God, there's so many people, and just really got a chance to see how many lives Matt not only was in, but affected, because you couldn't hate him. He was one of those people that it was impossible. He never did anything wrong to anyone. He was, was the only person you can count on 100% of the time.
Never dealt with anything like that. Didn't expect it, because I chilled with him literally the day before.
I remember standing in the foyer and meeting Mrs. McMahon, and she said, "Now, how do you know Matt?" And I said, "Well, we went out a couple times." And I remember she just completely collapsed in my arms, and she said, I had been praying for Matt to find a girl, and I am so glad that he found you." And I just remember holding her and her sobbing. And, Mr. Sean was the same way. He just, he's such a big guy, and he literally just fell into my arms.
I think everybody, after it happened, had a very concise idea of what to do with the friendships that they had. That, the big message that I think everyone got, regardless of who they were, I think it was pretty unanimous that treasure the ones who are around you at the moment. I'd always heard that over and over and over and over again from parents and mentors and teachers and etc. But it takes losing someone close to you that is completely not ready to go in order to see that, I think.
Matthew, say hi. Sit down. Hi, Jen. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Hold hands and dance. Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Hey, Matt. Is that a cool cave or what?
Can you open this, Dad?
Yeah.
What about you?
What?
Words of wisdom, Matt.
Don't get ridiculous tattoos like me. Live your life to the fullest. And don't be too crazy.
If you could look at our friendship and be like, man, I really, really appreciated this.
Whenever we would drive into the city and walk around and just have our normal time without getting fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And having to spend a lot of money by just two guys enjoying walking in the city, expressing how we feel about our city of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is going to Starved Rock and being just out in the nature, just letting everything go in the past and enjoying us right then and there. Instead of focusing on, what's everybody else doing in Naperville when you're out in a country land area and just soaking up all the sun and everything of the nature.
When the one time that he and I went down to Starved Rock in the fall, and I brought my camera with me, and I made probably the most beautiful video I ever made with him. Just the scenery there and the tonality of light down at Starved Rock was just beautiful that day. And I know that on the morning of my 21st birthday, that Matt mentioned that was one of his greatest memories with me up to that point, and it was definitely one of mine. Because as hectic as Matt could be with all the different kind of people that he hung out with, that he was very calming. He was kind of almost like a Buddha. Like when he got out into the nature, and it was just like he and I. His personality was very different. He was very calm and collective, and he was kind of taking everything in, and he knew. He was very silent and kind of mysterious. And there was that side of Matt I don't think many people saw. But it was something that if you saw it, you knew how much of a genius this man was, but it was almost like he didn't really know how to show it. Like he had a gift, not only within his cars, but just as a human being, that he could feel things that other people couldn't feel, and that he could respond to the little things in life and actually appreciate them like nobody that I've ever really seen before. And it was up until I went to Starved Rock with him by myself where I really started noticing that. Or I had my camera set up and we were in this walkway and these leaves started falling, and I was smoking a cigarette, and Matt looks to me and he's like, "Look at those leaves, man, that's really pretty." And like, I never heard Matt say something like that before. I didn't think that he was that kind of a like philosophy type thinker, like, look how pretty those leaves are falling. And I just looked at him and I was like, yeah, it's kind of like a scene out of American Beauty. It was surreal. But yeah, that was definitely a moment that stuck out with me with Matt.
He's like, what is that?
That's okay.
What is this red light beeping up above?
We were just walking through Target and came across battery-powered water guns we had never seen before. These were so cool, we had to buy them. So, got them, came back to my house, filled them up, not even. We got gallon jugs of water from Target and just had them in the car, and we're just filling up the water guns like every 3 intersections because we would run out. I had the top down off the Jeep, the door was off. Matt, of course, got the best gun. He got the one that was fully battery powered, automatic, didn't have to pump it, nothing. Just held it, just constant stream of water. It was terrible. It was great, but it was terrible. And I had my little teeny tiny little pump gun. I couldn't keep up with him at all. That's probably one of my favorite goofy moments. That was great.
We were at our old house on Huntley Drive. They lived on the neighborhood in back of us, and there was a shed that we don't know who it belonged to, but there was a shed in our backyard in a little kind of forest area. We had this. We were burning paper and stuff, and then we went to the garage to go grab some stuff, and out came a gallon jug, or an empty gallon of milk. And he was standing there. I was in front of the gallon. There was, fire. I don't remember clearly what happened. He jumped on the gallon, and this huge fireball just shot at my leg. And I mean, it didn't hurt or anything, but it was dude, you almost just killed me with that fireball that shot out of a milk gallon.
I was in downtown Chicago with a photographer friend of mine from Rockford, and Matt was with this girl that he was interested in at the time, and came in from Naperville to visit us. and we all hung out and went to the Hard Rock Cafe. And that night, I had Matt laughing harder than I've ever seen anyone laugh before, and vice versa to me. Just these inside innuendos and these just stupid slapstick jokes. We were sitting out on the patio at the Hard Rock Cafe in Chicago, and then we went back to the hotel room that my friend had at the Westin River North. It's the Westin Hotel that runs right along the Chicago River. We laughed at like these dumb things. It was almost as if we were intoxicated, but we weren't. We were completely sober. And it was just this like pure positive energy, something that I hadn't really experienced with him yet, and it was by far like one of the best memories that I had with him. We were just being idiots in this hotel room, looking at stuff in this like Chicago brochure, and then Matt would, flip through the Bible and read a random page like he was a news anchor. It was really funny.
Probably some of the best memorable moments with Matt is just me and Matt on top of the parking garage watching the sunset, smoking a pack of cigarettes, talking with each other, working out life situations. He was a good mentor.
I can remember you and Matt coming in, pissing my boss off because she always hated when I had visitors. And she would just glare at you guys, and I would just be so happy that he would take up the salon I worked is teeny tiny, so it's like he took up the entire reception area. I mean, it was just, and he'd laugh in like the whole place. And then when I worked at the tea store too, I remember you guys would come in and I'd make you tea and be like, just act like you own it. Just act like you own it. I didn't give it to you. It's your tea. You paid for it. Promise.
Ready and to bury your father and your mother. What did you think when you lost another? I used to wonder, why did you bother? Distance from one to the other. Listen here, my sister and my brother. What would you care if you lost the other? I always wonder, why did we bother? Distance from one to the other. Oh, sweet swallows.
If there was one thing you could say to Matt if he was here, what would it be?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Are you trying to make me cry? If I could have said one thing to him, not even one thing, there were a million different things that I would have told him that he should never underestimate himself. Because I know he put himself down a lot, especially toward the end. I remember him just being so sad. And I wanted him to have more confidence because I knew he was such a wonderful person. And I would tell him I loved him a great deal. That, like I said, not a day goes by where I don't think about you. And that you were probably one of the best people that I've ever had the honor of calling my friend. And that I wish you would have made smarter choices and hit the damn brake pedal for once. That and I hope that you lived your life to the fullest and that you had no regrets. And that you loved too much, that you hurt too little. And so I guess if I could say anything, that he were missed so much more than you would know.
If I saw him now, I mean, the only things I'd have to say would probably be, I love you, and thank you for coming back. I mean, you know, if he came back, but if he just had never passed, just back to the way it normally was before, hanging out, having fun, being stupid, being 21, 20-year-olds in Naperville, doing anything stupid that would be fun.
Man, I love you. And I need you.
I'm sorry. That's... Probably I'm sorry for the shit that I put him through in grade school. And just not apologizing earlier. Because, I mean, right, you never know when someone's going to pass away. But what was great about him is that he never seemed to hold on to anything like that, because we met after our little gap. Yo, Joe! You know, with his arms wide open, like he's, you know, I got a Matt hug, and it was pretty great. It's like nothing ever happened, you know, it's like he was a very forgiving person. And like, man, it's like, I look back and like, man, I can't believe I did that to him and Dennis, and just, I mean, he's made me a better person because of that. With my family and with people, I'm more considerate, I think.
Thank you for entering into my life when no one else did, when I came back to Naperville, and becoming the friend that I will always remember you to be. Thank you for never judging me, never criticizing what I was and what was not doing with my life. If I was short on a cigarette, you'd always bum me. If I was short on cash, you'd always buy me food. You were very giving, and you never asked for anything in return other than my respect, and that went a long way. And I know in my heart that there are more people that embody the personality that you had, and I just want to say that you're a great guy, and you were the brother of the same age that I never had, that I always wanted, and I thank you so much for supporting me selflessly and giving me unconditional love and friendship, and just basically being a saint, you know.
I love you, dude. And you're my best friend forever, and wish you were still here. Even though I know you are everywhere I go, and every good thing in my life is because of you.
I've been down and I'm wondering why these little black clouds keep walking around with me. It was time and I'd rather be high. Think of walk me outside and buy a rainbow smile, but they're free. They are free. So maybe tomorrow I'll find my way home. So maybe tomorrow I'll find my way home. I look around at a beautiful life. I've been the upper side of down, been the inside of out.